Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is very close to my heart because I'm finally sharing the story of how I started speaking English as a beginner. This is something many people have asked me about over the past few years, and honestly, it's something I've always wanted to talk about openly. Because let's face it, speaking English fluently wasn't always my reality. There was a time when I could barely form a full sentence, and even a simple, "How are you?" would make me super nervous. So, if you're someone who understands English but struggles to speak it, or maybe you're just starting your English journey and feel completely lost, trust me, I've been there. I know that fear, that self-doubt, that embarrassment, and that's exactly why I want to share everything with you today, from my lowest points to the exact things I did to finally start speaking English confidently. This is not a success story told from a fancy stage or a scripted book. This is a real girl sitting in her bedroom in Houston, Texas, telling you what really worked, what didn't, how I felt, how I failed, and how I grew. So grab a cup of coffee or tea, get comfortable, and let me take you back to the beginning. Okay. Let me tell you honestly how it all started. When I was around 19, I had just moved to Houston with my family from a small Spanish-speaking community in New Mexico. I'd learned English in school, of course, but that was just the grammar and vocabulary part. In real life, nobody prepares you for the fast-paced conversations, the slang, the expressions, and especially the fear of speaking in front of others. I remember this one day when I went to a grocery store here in Houston. It was a simple thing. I just needed to ask where the flour was. I rehearsed the sentence in my head probably 10 times. "Excuse me, where can I find the flour?" But when I actually tried to speak to the store worker, my voice shook, and I said something like, Uh, flour? Where? He looked confused for a second, then smiled and pointed me to the aisle. I thanked him and walked away. But deep inside, I felt so small. That's when I knew. Understanding English wasn't enough. I needed to speak. I needed to use it daily. I needed to stop being afraid of making mistakes. But of course, that's easier said than done. At that point, my English was somewhere in the middle. Like, I understood TV shows, I could read articles online, but I couldn't hold a normal conversation. And every time I tried, my mind would freeze. I kept translating everything from Spanish to English in my head before I spoke, and by the time I was ready to say something, the conversation had already moved on. So I made a decision. I told myself, it's okay if I sound silly, it's okay if I make mistakes, but I'm going to speak every single day. The first thing I did? I started talking to myself. Yeah, I know how that sounds, but hear me out. I would literally walk around the house and describe what I was doing out loud. In English. Like, I am brushing my hair. I am going to the kitchen. Now I am washing the dishes. It felt weird at first, but slowly it helped me train my brain to think in English. Then I moved to the mirror. I would look at myself and speak for 5 minutes every morning. I would say things like, "Good morning. Today is Monday. I am feeling a little tired but excited." It didn't matter what I said. The point was to speak. No fear, no audience, just me. After that, I started watching more English YouTubers. Not just English teachers, but vloggers, lifestyle creators, beauty gurus, gamers, anyone who spoke naturally and casually. I paid attention to their tone, their expressions, their pauses. And then, this part is super important. I would pause the video and repeat what they said, exactly like they said it. If someone said, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe this just happened," I would repeat it the same way, with the same intonation. This helped me sound more natural and less robotic. One major thing I learned: speaking English isn't about knowing big words, it's about using the simple ones correctly. That was a huge mindset shift for me. I used to think, oh, I need to learn all these advanced words to sound fluent. But no, most native speakers use simple vocabulary every day. What matters is confidence, clarity, and flow, not fancy words. Around this time, I also joined a local English conversation group. It was just a small group at the public library here in Houston, and they would meet every Saturday morning. At first, I was too shy to speak much. I would sit quietly and just listen. But the people were so kind, especially this older lady named Carol. She would always smile at me and say, "Take your time, you're doing great." That small encouragement meant the world to me. Slowly, I started speaking up more. I would share one sentence, then two, then whole thoughts. And yes, I made mistakes. I mixed up tenses, used the wrong words, sometimes couldn't find the right word at all. But nobody laughed, nobody judged me. That's when I truly realized most people don't care if you speak perfect English. They care if you're trying. They care if you're making an effort. One habit that helped me a lot was keeping a speaking journal. Every night before bed, I would open the voice recorder on my phone and talk for 5 minutes. Just talk. About my day, my feelings, what I learned, what I'm planning for tomorrow. And then, here's the important part, I would listen back. It was painful at first, hearing my accent, my mistakes. But over time, I started noticing improvement. I started fixing things naturally. I started becoming more aware of how I spoke. Let me be super real with you. This process wasn't fast. It took months. I didn't wake up one day speaking fluently. It was slow. Some days, I felt like I was moving backward. But I kept going. That's the secret. You keep going even when it feels awkward, even when you feel embarrassed. Eventually, I started making friends who spoke only English. I would meet people at coffee shops, local events, or just say hello to neighbors. At first, it was hard to start conversations, but I kept things simple. I would say, "Hi, I just moved here recently. I'm trying to improve my English." And believe me, 90% of people responded positively. They appreciated my honesty. I remember this girl I met at a farmer's market. Her name was Lindsay. We started talking about fruits, and then somehow we ended up having lunch together. That was the first time I had a full English conversation with a stranger without freezing. It felt like a breakthrough moment. After that, I gained more confidence. And little by little, I started seeing changes. I stopped translating in my head. I started thinking directly in English. I started dreaming in English sometimes. And that's when I knew I had crossed a line. I wasn't perfect, but I had become comfortable with English. Now, I work part-time at a bookstore here in Houston, and I speak English all day. Do I still make mistakes? Sure. But now I laugh at them. I learn from them. I don't let them stop me. So, to anyone watching this video who feels stuck, shy, or scared to speak English, I want you to know you are not alone. I've been where you are, and if I can do it, so can you. Don't chase perfection. Chase progress. One sentence at a time. One smile at a time. One little brave moment at a time. Speak out loud, talk to yourself, join groups, make friends, watch videos, record your voice, and most importantly, believe in yourself. After that breakthrough with Lindsay at the farmer's market, I woke up the next morning feeling different, like there was an invisible weight lifted off my shoulders. I went about my usual routine, making coffee, scrolling through messages, but something in me whispered, "Today you can really do this." So I decided to push myself a bit more. I spent the early afternoon browsing Meetup for English conversation groups in Houston. I found one at a cozy cafe in Montrose that met every Monday evening. Instead of just RSVPing and hiding in the back, I promised myself I'd arrive 15 minutes early and introduce myself to the organizer, Jake. When I walked in, my heart pounded. The room was already half full of people sipping lattes and chatting. But I reminded myself, this is just one more conversation. I took a deep breath, walked up to Jake, and said, "Hi, I'm Maria. I'm from New Mexico, and I'm really excited to practice my English." His warm smile and enthusiastic handshake set the tone for the whole night. Over the next hour, we did icebreaker games, talking about favorite movies, weekend plans, travel dreams. At first, I spoke only when I had to. My favorite movie is The Pursuit of Happiness, or I want to visit New York City someday. But by the last activity, we paired up and had to ask each other rapid-fire questions for 1 minute. My partner, a guy named Carlos, asked, "What's your favorite thing about living in Houston?" Without pausing to translate, I blurted out, "I love the food trucks. They have amazing tacos and fusion dishes." And I laughed at how simple that sounded, but more importantly, I felt proud that I'd answered without hesitation. That night, on the ride home, I reflected on what made the difference. It wasn't that I'd suddenly mastered grammar. It was that I'd forced myself to speak before I was ready. Mistakes happened. I called a burrito and said fusionish instead of fusion cuisine. But none of it mattered. The connection, the laughter, the shared stories. That was the magic of real conversation. Inspired, I created a small challenge for myself. Every week, I would try one new way to practice speaking. Week 1. The meetup group. Week 2. Ordering something completely off menu at a coffee shop and chatting with the barista about it. I once walked into a Starbucks, saw a secret birthday cake frappuccino on Reddit, and said, "Hi, could I try this birthday cake frappuccino? I saw it online and I'm curious." The barista's eyes lit up. She showed me how it was made and asked where I'd found the recipe. We ended up talking about our favorite dessert flavors, and I left with a free sample of a new seasonal drink. Week 3. I joined a volunteer program at my local library, helping set up morning story hours for toddlers. It was hilarious and slightly terrifying to stand in front of a room full of energetic kids, reading picture books in English. Words like hippopotamus and caterpillar tripped me up, but the way the children giggled and pointed kept me going. By the third session, I was confidently singing the alphabet song without missing a beat. Every experience felt like leveling up. Alongside these adventures, I kept using technology. I downloaded a language exchange app where I'd have 5-minute voice calls with native speakers, random people from New York, California, even London. One day, I had a call with a teenager from Brooklyn who taught me slang like deadass and on fleek. Another time, an elderly man named Frank from Philadelphia shared stories about his childhood in the 50s. Each call lasted exactly 5 minutes. No pressure to keep chatting forever. And then I'd rate myself on confidence and clarity. I also created a mistake list in my notes app. Whenever I noticed I mispronounced a word or used the wrong tense, I wrote it down. At the end of each week, I'd review the list, practice those words and sentences, and check them off once I felt comfortable. It turned my mistakes into a roadmap for improvement rather than something to be ashamed of. Some days were hard. I remember one afternoon at the bookstore where I work. A customer asked me a complex question about a poetry anthology. My mind blanked. I stumbled over my words and finally blurted, I think it's over there," pointing vaguely and sending my heart racing with embarrassment. Later that night, I replayed that moment in my head, frustrated, but instead of letting it discourage me, I used it. I Googled phrases for assisting customers in bookstores, learned a few set sentences, practiced them in the mirror, and the next time a customer asked, I calmly said, "Certainly." That anthology is on the second shelf, next to the contemporary poetry section. The victory was small, but it felt like crossing a milestone. By month 4, I started noticing my inner dialogue changing. A voice that used to whisper, "You're not good enough," began saying, "You're doing just fine." That shift opened doors I never expected, like being asked to give a short welcome speech at a community event. Me, on stage, speaking English. I spent days writing, rewriting, and rehearsing. When the day arrived, my hands shook. But as soon as I stepped to the microphone, I remembered all those little 5-minute talks, the mirror practice, the library story hours. I took a deep breath and said, "Good evening, everyone. Thank you for inviting me to speak about the Houston Community Garden." The applause when I finished was more than applause for the speech. It was a celebration of every awkward step that led me there. Today, almost a year into this journey, I work full-time as an assistant at that same community center. I lead tours, host workshops, and even mentor new English learners from around the world. I sometimes pinch myself when I think back to the girl who could barely ask for flour. And you know what I tell them? Embrace your mistakes, speak every day, and celebrate every small win. Because there's no magic pill, no overnight fluency. It happens one brave sentence at a time, through 1,000 tiny conversations. After that community event, I rode a high for weeks. Every conversation felt easier. Every sentence flowed a little more naturally. But around month 6, I hit a wall. I realized I was still making the same mistakes, mixing up prepositions, hesitating when I needed to use phrasal verbs, and sometimes struggling to understand fast speakers with strong accents. It felt frustrating, like I had taken 2 steps forward and 1 step back. One Saturday afternoon, I sat in my favorite coffee shop in Montrose, sipping a chai latte and staring at my notes. I'd just come from a conversation group where several people teased me gently about my odd phrasing. Things like, "I look forward to meet you," instead of, "I look forward to meeting you." I laughed it off then, but afterward, I felt stuck. I realized that my usual practice methods, mirror talk, voice recordings, casual meetups, weren't enough to push past this plateau. That evening, I did something a bit radical. I signed up for an intensive weekend workshop called Speak Up Texas. It was held in Austin, about a 3-hour drive from Houston, and promised to tackle advanced conversational skills. Idioms, humor, debating, and spontaneous speaking. When I arrived on a cool spring morning, I felt butterflies in my stomach. I hadn't done formal learning in months. But as soon as I met my fellow participants, immigrants from Brazil, China, Nigeria, and beyond, I realized I wasn't alone in feeling stuck. The workshop facilitator, a dynamic coach named Emily, challenged us every hour. One exercise had us improvise a 5-minute press conference on a bizarre topic, like why squirrels should be mayor. Another required us to debate whether pineapple belongs on pizza, using persuasive language and colloquial expressions. At first, I fumbled. Well, I think pineapple, uh, gives a sweet touch. But by the end of the weekend, I was firing off opinions without a second's hesitation. Look, whether you're team pineapple or team no pineapple, one thing's clear. You gotta respect the tropical vibes. The laughter and nods of my peers felt like validation I didn't even know I needed. Driving home that Sunday evening, I realized that breaking through a plateau means embracing challenge. So I crafted a new plan. Every month, I'd pick one immersion project that scared me. The first was the workshop in Austin. The second was moving in with an American roommate. I found my roommate, Jessica, through a local housing Facebook group. Jessica was a graphic designer from San Diego who'd moved to Houston for work. We clicked immediately. She was outgoing, loved cooking Mexican food fusion, and hosted weekly board game nights. Living with her transformed my English practice. Our fridge had a word of the day magnet, so each morning I'd learn serendipity, to mull over, or gut feeling, then use it in conversation before bedtime. She'd correct my small slip-ups gently. If I said, "I'm agree," she'd smile. "You mean I agree," and we'd laugh it off. Soon enough, my weekly highlight became her taco and trivia nights. I'd introduce new trivia categories, like Spanish literature or Indian cinema, and we'd alternate who led each round. By the end of the evening, we weren't just quizzing each other. We were riffing jokes, teasing and bantering in playful, fast-paced English. It felt like auditioning for a sitcom, and every punchline I landed boosted my confidence. Around month 8, I decided to push my boundaries again. I enrolled in a local improv comedy class at a theater in downtown Houston. Performing in front of strangers felt terrifying, but improv is different from scripted chat. It forces you to listen, react, and build on whatever's thrown at you. My first night, I froze during a game called Yes and, where you must accept your partner's provocation and add to it. When my partner said, "Wow, look at that giant invisible elephant," I panicked and went silent. But when I finally blurted, "He looks hungry. Should we feed him popcorn?" the room roared. That moment taught me that imperfect, spontaneous speech can still be hilarious and meaningful. Between these deep dives, I kept up my daily habits: mirror talk, voice journaling, conversation meetups, and my mistake list. But I also added 2 new rituals. First, I began writing a weekly blog post in English about my experiences, and then I read it aloud on video, posted it to my channel as a vlog update. That combined writing and speaking practice, and the comments from viewers pushed me to clarify my words and cadence. Second, I subscribed to a handful of English language podcasts on topics I loved: true crime, personal finance, plant care, and I started summarizing each episode out loud, pretending I was the podcast host. By month 10, I noticed something magical. I stopped translating. Instead of, "I need to go to the store," in Spanish to English, I simply thought, "Time to hit the store," and out came the words. My inner voice had switched lanes to English. I even started dreaming in English, sometimes waking up mid-sentence from a conversation in my dream. That was the clearest sign. My brain was rewiring itself. Of course, progress isn't linear. I still had off days, like the time I led a workshop at the community center and mispronounced entrepreneur so badly that half the group burst into giggles. But now I laughed with them, corrected myself, and moved on. Mistakes became part of the story I was telling. One of my proudest moments came when I traveled across the United States for the first time on my own. I flew to New York City to attend a language conference, hopped on subways, ordered at food trucks, navigated tourist traps, and navigated them all in English. I remember asking a MetroCard clerk for help with my trip pass. "Hi, could you please tell me how to get to Coney Island from here?" She not only explained it, but recommended her favorite pizza place along the way. Later, I chatted with fellow travelers on the train, swapping life stories, travel tips, and life lessons. It felt surreal. The same girl who once trembled asking for flour was now sharing life stories on a moving subway. Back in Houston, I reflected on the past year. I realized that my English journey had become more than language. It was about community, courage, and curiosity. I'd made lifelong friends from 5 continents, performed on stage, taught toddlers, and even started mentoring new learners. And every twist, from improv mishaps to blog vlogs to roomy board games, had woven a tapestry of confidence. So here's what I want you to take away. Don't wait for perfection. Don't chase fluency as a destination. See it as an adventure, full of detours, pit stops, and scenic overlooks. Embrace every misstep as a dance move. And build your own habit toolkit. Maybe it's a roommate magnet, a weekend workshop, a podcast summary ritual, or even a monthly improv class. Find what scares you, lean into it, and watch yourself grow. Thank you for sticking with me through this long journey. I know we're still just scratching the surface. There's always one more idiom, one more accent, one more stage to conquer. But if you start today, a year from now, you'll be sharing stories just like this. And who knows what adventures you'll have by then? Not long after my New York adventure, I realized my English journey was transforming into something even bigger than I'd ever imagined. It wasn't simply about ordering coffee or making small talk. It was about stepping fully into an American life, with all its quirks, rhythms, and surprises. I began diving into subtle details of the language. I downloaded a phonetics app on my phone and spent 10 minutes each morning practicing minimal pairs, words like ship and sheep, full and fool. I recorded myself saying tongue twisters. She sells seashells by the seashore. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers, until my tongue loosened and my accent softened. I wasn't trying to erase my background. I was refining my pronunciation so that people could understand me instantly without me having to repeat myself. Around month 14, I signed up for an online accent reduction class. The instructor, a speech pathologist from Chicago, taught me to notice where I placed my tongue, how my lips shaped each vowel, and where to drop or add word stress. It felt strange at first, holding a mirror in front of my lips as I practiced the short I in sit versus the long E in seat, but I started hearing the difference in real conversations. When I thanked a friend for helping me move, "Thanks so much for helping me move," she paused and said, "Girl, you're sounding more American every day." That small compliment fueled me even more. In parallel, I challenged myself to master idioms and phrasal verbs. I kept a little notebook in my purse labeled Idioms of the Week. One week I tackled to hit the nail on the head, to let the cat out of the bag, and to burn the midnight oil. I'd look for opportunities to slip them into conversations. When you described that sunset, you really hit the nail on the head. Or, I let the cat out of the bag and told my team about the surprise party. My roommates and friends would tease me playfully. Okay, that's 3 idioms in one sentence. But they also laughed with me, and that laughter became part of my comfort zone. By month 16, I felt ready for another leap, creating my own mini-series on my YouTube channel called English Unfiltered. Each video focused on a theme: ordering food, talking about feelings, navigating bureaucracy, where I'd share real dialogues I'd had, break down tricky expressions, and invite viewers to send me their questions. I wrote detailed scripts for each episode, rehearsed them out loud, and filmed in my little corner of the living room. Sometimes I flubbed a line and had to laugh at myself. Other times, my voice cracked mid-sentence, and I'd start over. But with each take, I grew more relaxed in front of the camera. One of my favorite episodes was Small Talk That Isn't Small. I recorded myself at the community center garden, asking volunteers about their weekend plans, their favorite plants, and even their secret hobbies. I intentionally filmed moments where I stumbled, like when I asked someone if they fancied the new statue in the park, and they stared at me. But then I showed how I recovered. Oh, sorry, did you like the new statue? That vulnerability resonated with my viewers. Dozens of comments poured in, saying, "Thank you for showing the awkward parts," and "I feel better about my own mistakes now." While I was building my channel, I also started volunteering as a conversation coach at the library. I paired up with new arrivals, immigrants from all over Latin America, Asia, and beyond, and practiced role plays with them: job interviews, doctor visits, parent-teacher conferences. I coached them on not just grammar, but on tone, pacing, and cultural nuance. In return, they taught me about their cultures, their music, and their dreams. Those sessions reminded me why I'd started this journey: to connect. Toward the end of the year, I was invited to co-host a panel at the Houston Language Festival. Standing on a makeshift stage with 3 other speakers, I shared the mic, fielded questions about what's the hardest part of speaking English and how do you keep motivated. I spoke with no script, no cue cards, just the confidence of someone who had lived every step of the process. The applause afterward wasn't just for the words I'd spoken, it was for the journey. Every shaky grocery store ask, every mirror monologue, every midnight recording. Now, as I plan new content and set fresh goals, I'm thinking about where English will take me next. Maybe I'll audition for a community theater production, try stand-up comedy in English, or write my own short stories. Whatever it is, I know the tools that work: daily speaking, fearless mistakes, thoughtful correction, and a community that lifts you up. If there's one piece of advice I want you to remember, it's this: your voice matters. From the moment you hesitantly ask for flour to the day you lead a festival panel, every word you speak in English is a victory. It's not about sounding like someone else. It's about sounding like the best version of yourself in a new language. Thank you for staying with me through this long story of how I started speaking English as a beginner. I hope my ups and downs, my strategies and stumbles, give you ideas and courage for your own path. If you've made it this far, Drop a comment telling me your favorite tip, or share one awkward moment you've had in English. Let's keep the conversation going. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe to join me as I continue exploring, stumbling, and laughing my way through English. Here are my top tips and tricks for beginner English speakers, each explained in full detail so you know exactly what to do, why it works, and how to fit it into your life in the United States. Talk to yourself, out loud, every day. What to do. Narrate your day in English. Describe what you're doing. I'm washing dishes. Now I'm checking my email. How you feel. I feel excited. I'm a bit tired. And what's coming up? This afternoon I have a meeting. Why it works. You give your brain constant practice transforming thoughts into English sentences without the pressure of an audience. Over time, you'll find yourself thinking directly in English rather than translating. How to fit it in. Pick 2 anchor moments daily while brushing your teeth in the morning and before bed. Spend 3 to 5 minutes each time talking through your routine. Mirror practice with emotion and expression. What to do. Stand in front of a mirror and have a mini conversation with yourself. Greet yourself. Good morning. How are you today? Practice jokes. Why did the chicken cross the road? Or retell a short story from your day. Pay attention to facial expressions, gestures, and intonation. Why it works. We speak more naturally when our body language and facial cues match our words. Mirror work helps you own those expressions so you'll feel and sound more confident in real interactions. How to fit it in. Combine with your self-talk routine or do a quick 2-minute pep talk before you head out the door. Shadow native speakers. Repeat after me. What to do. Choose short clips of native speakers, YouTubers, podcasts, movie lines, and play 2 to 5-second segments. Immediately pause and repeat exactly what you heard, matching tone, speed, and rhythm. Why it works. Shadowing trains your mouth and brain to produce natural stress patterns, linking words and chunking phrases just like natives do. How to fit it in. Keep a playlist on your phone. Whenever you have a minute, waiting in line, during your commute, play one clip and shadow. Voice record yourself and review. What to do. Use your phone's voice memo app to record a 2 to 3 minute diary entry or answer a question of the day. CG, what's your favorite memory? Then listen back. Note any hesitations, mispronunciations, or grammar slips, and retry the same prompt. Why it works. Hearing yourself objectively highlights patterns you wouldn't notice in real time. Tracking your progress week by week is hugely motivating. How to fit it in. Schedule a fixed recording slot. For example, Sunday evening. Keep all recordings in a single folder so you can compare months later. Join conversation groups and meetups. What to do. Look up local English conversation or language exchange meetups on meetup.com or at your public library. Commit to showing up at least twice a month and make it your goal to speak at least 3 sentences in each session. Why it works. Real human interaction forces you to listen, process, and respond on the spot. Exactly the skill you need. Plus, you'll make friends who understand your journey. How to fit it in. Treat it like a social appointment. Block it on your calendar, set a reminder, and plan to stay 30 to 60 minutes. Keep a mistake journal. What to do. Whenever you notice a mistake, wrong tense, misused word, awkward phrasing, jot it down in a small notebook or notes app. At the end of each week, review the list, craft correct example sentences, and practice them out loud. Why it works. Instead of beating yourself up, you turn errors into a personalized roadmap. Repeatedly fixing the same mistake reprograms your habits. How to fit it in. Carry a pocket-sized notebook or use your phone's notes. Spend 5 to 10 minutes each Sunday evening reviewing and clearing your list. Use mini immersion projects. What to do. Set monthly challenges that push you out of your comfort zone. Month 1. Order a secret menu item and chat with the barista. Month 2. Volunteer at a toddler's story hour and read in English. Month 3. Host a 5-minute mini-speech at a meetup. Why it works. Regular novelty breaks plateaus and keeps you excited. Each challenge teaches new vocabulary and social scripts. How to fit it in. Plan one project per month. Mark it on your calendar and invite a friend or accountability partner. Leverage technology, apps, and podcasts. What to do. Download a language exchange app, HelloTalk, Tandem, and schedule 2 5-minute voice calls per week with native speakers. Subscribe to 1 to 2 podcasts on topics you love, true crime, personal finance, plant care, and summarize each episode out loud as if you were the host. Why it works. Short, scheduled voice calls eliminate pressure to keep talking for long stretches, and summarizing podcasts builds both listening comprehension and speaking fluency. How to fit it in. Treat calls like mini-dates. Block 10 minutes twice weekly. Listen to podcasts on your commute or during chores. Then record your summary immediately after. Master phrasal verbs and idioms. Notebook in your purse. What to do. Keep a tiny notebook in your bag titled Idioms and Phrasal Verbs. Each week, choose 3 to 5 new items, e.g., hit the nail on the head, run into, burn the midnight oil. Write their meanings, example sentences, and practice weaving them into conversations. Why it works. Phrasal verbs and idioms are everywhere in casual speech. Using them correctly makes your English sound far more natural and native-like. How to fit it in. Review over coffee breaks. Challenge yourself to use 1 idiom per chat or text message daily. Focus on pronunciation, minimal pairs, and tongue twisters. What to do. Spend 5 to 10 minutes daily on minimal pairs, drill pairs like ship, sheep, live, life, bat, bad. Tongue twisters. Practice she sells seashells until your lips, tongue, and brain coordinate smoothly. Why it works. Clear pronunciation builds confidence and reduces misunderstandings, so you spend less time repeating and more time communicating. How to fit it in. Pair with your morning coffee or bathroom routine. Any small window you can consistently commit. Write then speak, blog and vlog combo. What to do. Write a short blog post, 200 to 300 words, about your week or a topic you're passionate about. Then film yourself reading it naturally, as if you're explaining it to a friend. Upload the video and invite feedback. Why it works. Writing forces you to organize thoughts. Speaking it aloud helps you practice delivery and catch awkward phrasing before you go live. Viewer comments then guide your next iteration. How to fit it in. Do this once every 2 weeks. Over time, you'll build a portfolio of polished yet authentic speaking samples and a supportive community. Adopt a growth mindset. Celebrate every step what to do. Each evening, jot down one English win you had that day, even if it's tiny. I said actually correctly, or I understood a cashier's joke. Reread these wins whenever you feel discouraged. Why it works. Focusing on progress, not perfection, keeps motivation high and fear low. Small wins compound into big confidence. How to fit it in. Add it as the last entry in your mistake journal review. Keep it simple so you'll actually do it. Putting it all together. Daily routine. Self-talk plus mirror practice plus pronunciation drill, 10 to 15 minutes. Weekly routine. Voice journal plus idiom review plus one tech-driven speaking session, 30 to 45 minutes. Monthly routine. Conversation group plus mini immersion project plus blog vlog exercise, 1 to 3 hours. Read aloud from diverse materials. What to do? Choose short text each day, news articles, children's storybooks, poems, or song lyrics, and read them aloud for 5 to 10 minutes. Focus on maintaining a steady pace, clear enunciation, and natural pauses at punctuation. For poems and lyrics, pay attention to rhythm and rhyme. Why it works. Reading aloud bridges the gap between silent comprehension and verbal production. You train your mouth to form unfamiliar word combinations and internalize natural speech patterns found in different genres. How to fit it in. Keep a small stack of pocket-sized books or printed articles by your bed or on your desk. Each night before sleep or first thing in the morning, pick one and read until you feel comfortable moving on. Label household items with sticky notes. What to do? Write the English name of common objects, e.g., refrigerator, microwave, bookshelf, on sticky notes, and place them on those items. Whenever you use or see the object, say its name out loud. Once you're confident, add a simple sentence about it. The refrigerator is cold. I put plates in the dishwasher. Why it works. Constant visual reminders pair vocabulary with real-world context, reinforcing recall. Saying the word aloud each time cements pronunciation and meaning. How to fit it in. Spend one afternoon labeling 10 to 15 key items in your home. As you acquire new things, like kitchen gadgets or decorations, add more notes. Use spaced repetition for contextual vocabulary. What to do. Create flashcards, physical or in an app like Anki, not just for single words, but for short, useful phrases or collocations, e.g., make a reservation, checkout counter, catch a flight. Review them with spaced repetition scheduling, and every time you see a card, say the entire phrase out loud. Why it works. Spaced repetition ensures long-term retention, while practicing full phrases trains you to link words naturally rather than memorizing isolated vocabulary. How to fit it in. Allocate 10 minutes each morning or evening for your flashcard session. Add 5 to 10 new phrase cards per week. Watch with dual subtitles, then shadow what to do. Pick an English TV show or movie and enable both English and your native language subtitles. For a 2 to 3 minute scene, watch once with subtitles to understand, then a second time with only English subtitles. pausing after each line to shadow the dialogue. Why it works. Dual subtitles provide comprehension support while you pick up new expressions. Shadowing afterward forces you to reproduce native intonation and pace under realistic conditions. How to fit it in. Incorporate into weekend relaxation. Set aside one episode segment per viewing session. Join a public speaking or debate club. What to do. Enroll in a local Toastmasters club or a debate group where you'll give short speeches, participate in impromptu speaking rounds, and receive structured feedback on content and delivery. Why it works. Formal speaking environments push you to organize ideas coherently, expand your vocabulary for different topics, and overcome fear of large audiences. Feedback from experienced speakers accelerates growth. How to fit it in. Many clubs meet bi-weekly or monthly. Attend one meeting to observe, then commit to giving your first icebreaker speech within a month. Sing karaoke in English. What to do. Choose your favorite English songs, pop, rock, or musicals, and sing along using karaoke tracks. Focus on keeping up with the lyrics, mimicking the singer's pronunciation, and feeling the rhythm. Why it works. Singing stretches your articulation muscles, trains your ear for intonation and stress, and makes practicing fun and memorable. How to fit it in. Invite friends for an at-home karaoke night or use a karaoke app during downtime. Set a goal of learning one new song per week. Find a language accountability buddy. What to do. Pair up with another English learner or a patient native speaker and agree to meet, virtually or in person, twice a week for 15 to 20 minutes of conversation practice. Set session themes, e.g., weekend plans, current events, book discussion, and give each other gentle correction. Why it works. Regular low-pressure conversations build routine, motivation, and mutual support. Having someone expect you to speak keeps you accountable. How to fit it in. Post in local language exchange groups or apps to find a partner. Block the time on your calendar as you would a class. Create real-life role-play scenarios. What to do. Imagine frequent real-world situations, doctor's appointments, job interviews, apartment tours, and write short role-play scripts for each, both sides of the conversation. Practice them aloud, then record yourself taking both roles or enlist a friend to play the other character. Why it works. Role-playing builds the exact scripts you'll need in daily life, reducing anxiety and giving you ready-made phrases when the real moment arrives. How to fit it in. Identify one scenario per month that's relevant to your life in the U.S. Draft the script on a weekend afternoon and rehearse it throughout the following week. Bringing it all together. Micro-practices daily. Self-talk, mirror practice, labeling plus flashcards, 15 minutes. Structured sessions, weekly. Read aloud plus voice journal plus role-play rehearsal plus tech practice, 45 to 60 minutes. Immersive events, monthly. Meetup club meeting plus public speaking, debate, plus karaoke or improv, 2 to 3 hours. Each of these additional tips layers onto the core practices you've already built, giving you fresh angles. Music, technology hacks, social commitments, and real-world scripts to keep your English journey dynamic.